Hello, I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to another COVID-19 update. But this isn't a COVID-19 update. This is talking about the coronavirus lockdown here in Britain. And today I'm going to be talking to you about policing during the lockdown. Now, the United Kingdom has been in lockdown for 8 weeks now. Now, 8 weeks ago, Boris Johnson locked the country down. You could only leave your house for 4 good reasons. For example, only if you had a medical need, to help a vulnerable person, to go shopping as infrequently as possible, going to work, but only where this is absolutely necessary and cannot be done from home. And that was about it. And 1 form of exercise a day. But the police have been at the forefront of the coronavirus lockdown. Boris Johnson deployed the police on the 23rd of March. And the police have been out patrolling parks, supermarkets, everything. Now, I'm here today to answer a very simple question. Has policing during the coronavirus lockdown been too overzealous? Which means too heavy-handed. Let me know down in the comments below. Now, I'm going to go through the policing with you. Now, the police had on the 24th of March, the police had new powers that the Prime Minister gave them. Never in peacetime has a government ever had to do this to curb the spread of the virus. On the 24th of March, the police announced powers to disperse gatherings. The police started by telling people to move on in certain areas. For example, we had that in London at Shepherd's Bush. Police telling some people to move on, get off the green. It's not a holiday, it's a lockdown, which means you should be at home. But only a few days later did this new coronavirus bill pass the House of Commons. Now, in the coronavirus bill was the announcement of fines for lockdown breaches. Now, the fine originally was £60. Okay, so the fines were not bad. However, though, since the lockdown has been eased, Boris Johnson has increased the fines to £100 now. So they've doubled the fines. Every offence is worth double the price. If you do it 6 times, I believe it's over £3,000 in fines. So it's a lot of money to pay for fines for the police are doing. So the police will also tell you to move on if you are not following the guidance. Now, though, with the lockdown being eased, you can do a few more things. You can now sunbathe, for example. That's now allowed. And you're also allowed to meet up with one other person from another household as long as you still obey the social distancing guidelines. But since the 27th of March and the 11th of May, there have been 14,000 lockdown breach fines imposed by the police for social distancing breaches. So, for example, getting too close to people, not adhering to the law. 56 people were wrongly charged under this new coronavirus act as well. But you can go further than that. The police can also start charging you under this new coronavirus Act 2, which is where they start increasing the fines. That's Act 2, and then Act 3, which is potentially a prison sentence if you continue. It's up to 6 months in prison if you do not follow the guidance. So yes, the statistics on there do seem very, very concerning. That thousands of people have breached these rules already. But remember now, the Prime Minister has changed them. So the police now don't have as massive of a power. They still will ask you what you're doing. But the good news is now they will be a lot kinder to you. But some police forces have been overzealous. And what I find weird is that we see some police patrolling aisles in supermarkets, which I find a bit crazy because they will check. They had this thing on a couple of months ago saying they will actually check through your shopping to see if you've brought essential items. I mean, that is quite crazy, to be honest. People have got to buy products. But to check for a supermarket trolley, I mean, that's a bit crazy. Then, of course, we had Nigel Farage out the other week. Actually, police knocked on his door after he made a trip to Dover, which they sort of was deemed unnecessary, filming the illegal migrant crisis. Police kept knocking on his door. He was annoyed with it. And then a police officer knocked on his door later and said apparently that he'd done the right thing because he was a key worker. So, yeah, the police forces have had lots of ideas. They've also been stopping motorists. I saw the other day, I think it was a BMW X5 that was pulled over by the police. I think this was near Brighton, just to make sure that they were doing an essential journey. So, yeah, the police are starting to take this a lot more seriously now. And the thing is with the police during this lockdown, you've got to be aware that in these difficult times, lockdown means lockdown. And usually, now with some of the restrictions eased, it's going to be a little bit more consuming for people to get out. And I can tell you what, over the next few days, especially Wednesday, we are looking at highs of around 26, 27 degrees in parts of London. Around here, in Pitsea, could be as high as 25 degrees on Wednesday. So, I think the lockdown will be tested to the limit in the next few days, especially with the warm and humid weather we're going to be getting. So please be aware when you're heading out in the next few days, because the police will be out still patrolling these things. Even when lockdown measures are eased, the police are still going to be out. They have the power to fine you, and they have now got the power to still... They don't exactly need to enforce the social distancing as much, but they can still fine people, because we don't want to see you going... If some people going out before this pandemic, it was a risk. The police wanted you to police wanted you to be protected. And I know how a lot of people feel about the police in general, chief constables, going out, inspectors potentially patrolling. I know someone from Gateway called Chief Inspector Chris Bradford, who has been out patrolling parts of Basildon. He's doing a great job at the moment. And yeah, I mean, the thing is that this is one of the hardest jobs to do. And I tell you what, a lot of people will want to do policing. A lot of people will want to be police officers once this lockdown's finished, because the police have had new powers, something they've never been done before. And trust me, there are so many videos on YouTube about the police. It's crazy. But to sum it up, really, the police will continue. Do I think the police have been overzealous in this lockdown? I think they haven't. Now, some people will say they have been, and arguments will be that some police have been heavy-handed on people. For example, checking in supermarket trolleys, also particularly moving people on, and also wrongly charging some people as well. But what the police also have the power to do as well is disperse gatherings of more than 2 people in public. Now, that was originally under the previous lockdown rules. The police had powers to disperse gatherings of more than 2 people and issue fines for people that did not comply with those measures. But now the gatherings, if you social distance, that's fine. But the police can still disperse gatherings if they are enormous. So please be aware of that. And finally, on public transport, the police have also been patrolling aisles, or platforms, trains as well have had police on them. I just want to make sure that the trains are not overcrowded, because now the services have increased on the TfL, especially on the underground. Now we're getting up to a 70% service, more the service we got before the lockdown. So the good news is that hopefully the trains will start running again, both on C2C and Greater Anglia, around Essex. Hopefully that will help massively with people, especially going on London-bound lines, and also Southend-bound lines as well, to get to work safely and get home safely, because at the moment rules will change and it is going to be a confusing matter as well. And obviously the schools are meant to be going back soon as well. We'll have more updates on schools another time, but we will be seeing police potentially on standby at schools as well. But more information on that will be later on. Thank you so much for listening. For any questions, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and this is your COVID-19 update on Police Force.